Welcome back, Twisters. Nick here, and today I'm going to be naming my favorite logo from each NHL team. So I've gone back into each franchise's logo history, and I've found my absolute favorite one, and I want to know your favorites down in the comments below, whether you want to rank all 31 current franchises or just a few, your favorite teams, what have you. I want to know down in the comments below, and the way that I've done this is that it's by franchise, okay? So if a team was playing elsewhere and then relocated, that counts, all right? But nonetheless, I will name some of my favorite logos for the current iteration of that team. Ready to have some fun, guys? Leave a like, and let's rock and roll, Mother Goose. All right, we're going to kick things off alphabetically with the Anaheim Ducks, or shall I say the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, because come on, nothing has held a candle to this logo right here. I think the shoulder logo they had later on in the 90s was pretty great as well. But right here, you've got this awesome duck mask. That is terrific. That is so creative. I don't think we had anything like that in professional hockey ever. And then I just think the overall composition of this is fairly solid. I love the jade, absolutely. So they wore this version on their white jerseys in the 1990s. I don't really think that there's much of a case to make for other logos that they've had. This right here is the one for me. Next up, we have the Coyotes franchise, but as you know, they started in Winnipeg. And so their original logo as the Winnipeg Jets is my favorite. Of course, the actual current Winnipeg Jets have used this before, but it originates with the Coyotes franchise, so that is my absolute favorite. I just love the typography. The colors are excellent here. Just, it's got a sense of nostalgia to it, and I wish we could see that a little bit more often in the NHL. And as for my favorite Coyotes-based logo, it's actually the shoulder patch that they wear on their away jerseys. They had something like this as well when they were the Phoenix Coyotes, but I think this iteration here is the best. I just love that state flag reference inside the state itself, and I would hope to see this featured in some other way, shape, or form. Maybe not as a primary crest, but overall, just a very, very lovely touch for that jersey. Next up is the Boston Bruins, and this one to me is unquestionably the 2008 alternate logo. Even though it looks like something that was maybe created 60 years before this, it's just, I absolutely dig it. It's actually featuring a Bruin, and one that's, fierce and ferocious and kind of like standing his ground. And it's a very unique shape too. Of course, I've heard this called the muffin logo, and I like muffins, and I hope you do too. All right, next up, Buffalo Sabres, and some of you thought maybe it would be the goat head. I love that jersey, absolutely, but for me, even though my logo rankings didn't have it very, very high, I still really like the classic logo. For me, it's about the coloring. I like how they actually depict Sabres here. It has certainly a retro feel, and I'm glad that the Sabres have gone back to this, and especially in this color scheme right here. I also really like the word mark that they used. I think it was in 2014 when they wore a jersey with the word mark with also that crest in there, but the composition was didn't quite make the cut for me. Next up, Carolina Hurricanes. And for this one, we are definitely going back to their days in Hartford with the original Hartford Whalers logo for their days in the NHL. WHA is not included with this. Just one of the most creative, simplest, and creative logos that you've ever seen ever in sports, really. There's, I can't say anything new about this, honestly. You already know how terrific this is. My favorite Carolina Hurricanes logo, though, is actually the current logo. The alternate logos they've had before, I've never been a huge fan of them, although I've liked the actual jerseys, but I just think the main crest, even though it's certainly not my favorite by any means, it's okay. Now we've got the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I have the Cannon logo that they feature on their home jersey. So not the one that they actually have as the alternate. I like the color scheme, the navy, red, silver color scheme that is on, that's part of their home jersey makeup right here. So that's why I've got this one. Again, I actually really like circle-based logos. I know that some of you out there might not, but this just to me is so lovely in terms of its composition. I just love this ribbon and the coloring of that and the cannon itself. I mean, how does this not just replace the current logo that they have? I don't understand that whatsoever. All right, next up, we've got the Calgary Flames, and we're actually going to go back to their time in Atlanta, and I have this iteration of the Atlanta Flames logo right here. I just think the shape of it's pretty neat. It's got an abstract feel to it, kind of like the Quebec Nordiques, and I really like the colors because no one else is doing that in the NHL. But of course, Calgary itself, its main crest is actually great as well. So if I said a favorite Calgary logo, it's still what they currently wear on their main jersey. I think I had that around, 10th or so ninth in my logo rankings for the current jerseys in the NHL. Now the Chicago Blackhawks, and I thought about this one a little bit as well, but to me, I think just the current logo is the best one that they have right now. There's a ton of detail in this, just lots of different colors, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just iconic, really. I know that obviously people have differing opinions about this on occasion, but for me, the way that it's done right now is probably the best that they've ever done it. So that's why I've got Chicago, current logo. All right, Colorado Avalanche, and this one to me is also a no-brainer. It is without question the Quebec Nordiques logo. You guys already know that it's my favorite jersey that's ever been worn, and the logo itself, I just love how it's so straight out of the 1970s right there, and I love the coloring too, absolutely. If we were to talk about my favorite Colorado Avalanche logo, I would say it is the state flag motif, I would say, that is on their shoulders, on their current jerseys right now. That to me is my favorite. I don't like their current logo. The one with the mountain in the background, that one's okay, but I just like the simplicity of this one right here, even though it does look like a baseball logo. Next up, we got the Dallas Stars, and for me, this one is also unquestionably one that requires me to reach back into time. It's the Minnesota North Stars, and I know they had a couple variations of their logo. This one is just the one that I happen to choose. I don't really care too much between it, but I just love the colors. Again, kind of an abstract looking shape, even though we can tell that it forms an N, and just the reference to the North Star State right there. That's just perfect. But if I were to choose a Dallas Stars logo, I would choose what they currently feature on their shoulders right now. There was another one I had thought about as well with the state outline, but I think this one, the composition is a little bit better right here, like the colors overall. Now for the Detroit Red Wings, and some of you might remember that I ranked the Red Wings logo as my absolute favorite that's currently in the NHL. However, I'm going to deviate just a little bit because this, with the word mark itself, is just absolutely terrific. These jerseys were great. This is from the 2014 Winter Classic, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, it's a retro-looking winged wheel right there. You know, this thing looks like it was created 70, 80 years ago. It's done so well. I love the stylized lettering. The numbers were even like that. The number kits. I wish the Red Wings would do something like this instead of what we got for their reverse retro. This is just beautiful to me. Next up, Edmonton Oilers, and they don't really have that many logos to draw from, unless you want to talk about the late 90s and the aughts right there. But that doesn't hold a candle to the classic Oilers logo and the classic Oilers color scheme. So you see here the royal blue and the orange. I had this one, I think, also around 10th in my logo rankings. I just think it's just the composition of this is great. Love that little splash of orange right there, or drop of orange, I should say. Great logo. Next up is the Florida Panthers, and I actually surprised myself when I picked this one. I don't have the leaping cat. I just didn't like the perspective on that. I don't have the current logo. I have actually what they wear on their arms. So I have the Florida state flag with the puma here and the Panthers lettering right there. I know that that's certainly kind of a military motif, but I think it works really nicely here. And I love how the team uses this. I think that's what it is. It's just that it's so uniquely featured versus other logos or secondary marks in professional sports even. And I just think it works really nicely here. I love it. Now I've got the Los Angeles Kings, and I was surprised to pick this one too. I was never a huge fan of the chevron logo. I think it's fine, but in the purple and yellow color scheme, it looks wonderful. So for the reverse retro jersey, I picked this one right here. It looks terrific. You've got the crown, you've got the colors, you've got the fun lettering for Kings right there with the sort of whoosh marks there. It's great, man. I wish if they rolled out with this for every game, I'd be on board with it completely. Although the rest of the jersey, though, you've got the scrambled eggs on the arms. All right, next up, Minnesota Wild. This was actually kind of close. So I did choose the current logo that they have right now, and that's pretty much the same that they've always had. It's a fantastic logo to me. Maybe just a little bit too busy, but nonetheless, I understand why everyone thinks, or pretty much everybody, thinks it's among the absolute best in the NHL and among the best in sports too. However, I also wanted to put a close second in here. So I have the actual script logo. I think this is beautiful. The M itself is featured occasionally as well, like on the shoulders of the current home jersey, and that looks terrific too. So to me, if the Wild said, okay, we have to actually scrap our logo for IP reasons or some stupid excuse, and they said, we're gonna go with the script logo from now on, I would be like, let's go, let's do it. That's totally fine. So that's for the Wild. Montreal Canadiens. There really isn't that much variation in their logos or variety in terms of what they've used before, so I just have the current logo. It's just iconic. It's recognizable, and I like the stroke around the lettering more so than what they've had before. That's about it. Now on to the New Jersey Devils, and for this one I have reached back to their time in Colorado as the Rockies. So I like this logo more than what the Avalanche have used as their alternate. This to me is fantastic. Like the colors a lot, obviously very closely related to the state flag. It's just wonderful. The composition of it is great. I just love the coloring on this too. The jerseys themselves, I was not a fan of those though. That's great. Nonetheless though, the Jersey Devils have a pretty solid logo. I think that maybe it could use a rebrand or at least a little bit more going on behind the lettering, but nonetheless, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm kind of to that mentality when it comes to the Devils. Now to the Nashville Predators, and I could have chosen anything with NP on it, given my initials, but I've gone with the logo that they had in the late aughts, in the Reebok era right here. This one's cool because you've got this two-tone blue, you've got black in the saber-toothed cat and silver. It's kind of like something, it kind of reminds me of what would be a really fierce hood ornament for a car. Seriously, that would look sick, or like on a motorcycle or something like that. That is what it's all about right there. That's the best composition I've seen for the Predators logo. Now the New York Islanders, and Kim, if you're watching, look away. Come on guys, the Fisherman logo is just dope, okay? I know that people on the island probably prefer what they currently have and what they've had, for most of their franchise, obviously. But the Fisherman logo is great. Look at this, you got teal with this color scheme. The actual Islanders lettering is really cool as well. There really isn't that much that I find wrong with this logo, except for the fact that it's for this team that won 4 Stanley Cups in a row in the 1980s. It's great, and the jersey's great too. I'm so glad I have that in my collection. Next up, New York Rangers. And no, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the Statue of Liberty for me. I don't know. I like that logo, but to me it just doesn't feel like the Rangers in the way that the classic shield does. Not to mention, I am much more a fan of the Rangers with royal blue instead of navy blue. So, like navy blue and silver, that to me doesn't really fit in with the New York Rangers as much as this color scheme right here. The flat design. I don't know, man. I know it looks like, White Castle knockoff or whatever, and I know it was low in my logo rankings, but that was me trying to be a little bit more objective, whereas here, subjectively, I've always really liked this. Next up is the Ottawa Senators, and I couldn't really pick one strongly, so I went with the O logo with the red and black behind it. That's been used on the shoulders for their jerseys before. The O jerseys that the Sens have had before, not for the Centennial game against the Canadiens. I didn't like that one, but the black one with the O logo, and of course the cream one for the Heritage Classic in 2014 against the Vancouver Millionaires, the Canucks. Smoking, absolutely smoking. Love those completely. This logo itself is not great by any means, but the way that it's been used before, I guess that's why I have it as my favorite Sens logo. Next up, Philadelphia Flyers, and they really haven't done that much other than kind of recolor their logo and put some outlines around it, but for me, it's the classic logo right here. I told people before I think this might be my favorite or the best logo in the NHL. I had it ranked 7th, so that kind of surprised me, but nonetheless, just the shape of this, again, kind of getting back to that sort of 70s era design, even though this was designed before then, but yeah. I just would not change much about it unless there was a way to fit in just a little bit more orange. Next up, Pittsburgh Penguins, and no, I don't have the Robo Penguin, even though that's something that brings about nostalgia and is, it's a pretty good logo. I gotta go with this one from the late 1960s right here. It was also featured on the 2008 Winter Classic jersey. I love these kinds of logos, these circle ones right here, and even though the colors are kind of weird with this dark blue, and then you have black for the Penguin, I don't know. It just does it for me somehow. I like the lettering too. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't really reflect a professional sports franchise as much in that way, but somehow I'm on board with it. And then, so you have this navy blue on the outside, and then you have this kind of pop of yellow in the center right there. And of course, that jersey is among my favorites too. Next up, my team, baby, the San Jose Sharks. So some people would ask, hey, do you like the original Shark logo or the current one? Well, I like them both, but when I see this, it's the Stealth logo, man. The Stealth logo is absolutely fierce, and it works. I think that jersey looks great. I think there could be a little bit more detail in it, but for this one right here, it is maybe the most ominous shark that we've seen. And I thought about the screaming shark, which is great, absolutely. But this one right here, it's biting through the hockey stick. It's got the triangle in the background. That's so synonymous with the Sharks. You know what I also really like is I like the shoulder logo as well, because it was a recoloring of the original shoulder logo done in that stealth theme. There's my shark ink right there. I got to get this thing touched up quite a bit. Nonetheless, fantastic logo as well. All right, next up, St. Louis Blues. Now, I ranked the Blues' current logo as the second best in the NHL recently. However, my favorite Blues logo, even though I don't know if I'd want to see it on the front of a jersey, is the trumpet logo. This to me is miraculous. That to me, I think when you have the color scheme, that's where you bring the red in, that's where it fits in with the flag of St. Louis. That fits much better. Now, granted, a trumpet, I don't think about blues when I think of a trumpet. I think of jazz. Nonetheless, I just think that the design, the perspective of this, the coloring, I love how, you know, the font, the lettering is, it's not like top and bottom, it's not side and side, it's kind of like halfway between the two. For me, that just really works. I just dig this very much. If I were to say what's my favorite shoulder logo that's used in the NHL, it would probably have to be this one. Next up, we've got the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I've chosen their logo from the earlier part of the Reebok era, so the Reebok Edge era. I've never really been a fan of Tampa's logo so much, but for me, this one is just the most cohesive with, although it adds a little bit more than what the current logo has right now. So you've got some more shading in here, you've got more coloring, you've got lettering, which is sharp, I think, because otherwise you just have this bolt, and that would just be super boring. So for me, this is the most complete Tampa logo, and the jerseys that they had for it, especially the black one with the blue accents, that's my favorite. Next up, I've got the Leafs, and I've actually picked two Toronto logos here. I'm a big fan of the current Leaf that they use. I think that it has just enough detail. It's not super floppy. It's not super pointy. You know, it's kind of halfway between, and the little veins of a leaf, that detail looks really nice. The lettering looks fine to me as well. But a close second that I want to note here is the Toronto St. Pat's. Looks great on the jersey. I love that sort of capsule logo right there. The lettering's kind of unique. You haven't really seen anything like that in quite a while in the NHL, so I wanted to give that a shout out, absolutely. Vancouver Canucks. Now, this is interesting because this particular logo has never been used on a jersey in a game that the Canucks have played in. Technically not. I think I'm in the minority here. Absolutely. I love Johnny Canuck. I absolutely love Johnny Canuck. I mean, imagine him with like a circle logo and some like, you know, some classic lettering there. This looks wonderful. I mean, this says Vancouver. This says British Columbia, or the Northwest of North America right here. It's great. I love it, man. He looks like he's pumped. He's going to the rink, or maybe it's his first skate on a pond in the season. This guy's a gamer, absolutely. And I know that they featured the V logo, right? The V logo with Johnny Canuck on the shoulder. That to me, I like it. Not in love with it, but this to me is awesome. If anybody ever knows someone who is selling the fashion jersey that they had in the Reebok era, it's green, primarily green with Johnny Canuck on it, let me know. Absolutely let me know. Although I do want to give a shout out to the skate logo. That's my favorite that has actually been on a jersey. The color scheme is great. I just love the, you know, retro feel of it, absolutely. Next up is Vegas, and there's really only a couple logos to choose from, so I just chose their main crest right here. It's a very well composed logo. That V in the helmet looks great. The perspective is pretty good as well. And you can use it in large and small formats, and it always looks really good right there. Now the Winnipeg Jets, and of course I could have chosen the original Winnipeg Jets logo because it was used in the Heritage Classic games. However, I decided to forego that and choose the script logo. I actually like this logo. The rest of the jersey to me is too plain, but nonetheless, I actually like word marks. I definitely do. I like this more than the regular Jets logo, and even more so than their regular shoulder logo. For Washington, I have the Weagle, the shoulder logo that they have right now. Definitely the best that they've ever had. Although I gotta give a shout out, the Screaming Eagle for the reverse retro jersey turned out really well too. But this, it's mostly symmetrical. You've got the Capitol building at the bottom there with the negative space. You've got the formation of a W for Washington, or Weezer. And yeah, it's a bald freaking eagle, man. That is the symbol of the United States right there. love this. It is terrific. So that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think of these logos? What are your favorites of all time? You guys let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, helps other twisters like you discover this channel, and I'll catch you later for more videos on hockey history and hockey culture. Jerseys and logos are definitely a big part of that. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Once again, I'm Nick. I'll catch you twisters later. Ciao.